Hey everyone, welcome back to Wixfix. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Ryan, and today's video is another episode and our final episode of our Velo Animation series. For today's video, we're going to be doing the Advanced Velo Animation project by Wix. So if you missed the beginner and intermediate projects that we did, those videos will be linked in the description. And if you want to follow along with this video, the link to this website will be linked in the description as well. But let's go ahead and check out what we'll be building in today's video. So if I go ahead and refresh this page, here is the animation we will be building in today's video. So a couple things that we'll need to do is each one of these different little design elements are going to kind of rotate. And then these two little dots on the eyes kind of start over here as the dots over these eyes, and they fall through the maze. So as you can probably tell, this is going to be a little bit more complex, and in some of the code, we're going to be using a little bit more JavaScript logic to complete this instead of Velo. So just keep that in mind as we go through this, and I'll try to explain it the best I can as we build it. But let's go ahead and start. So as you can see here, we have everything that we're going to need to build this animation. Now we just kind of need to start adding the code. So the first thing that we're actually going to add is our APIs. So the first thing we're going to import is our timeline from Wix Animations, just like that. And you'll notice that currently it is grayed out, and that's because we don't have any code below it basically referencing the API. So when we start adding more code down below, you'll notice that this is no longer grayed out, but we'll go ahead and import our next one. And this one's going to be form factor. And this is going to be from Wix window. Perfect. So now that we have both APIs that we're going to use, down below this, let's go ahead and create a constant. We're going to say is mobile, and this is just going to equal form factor, and we're going to say triple equal mobile with a capital M. And basically what that's going to say is if the form factor is set to mobile, then the is mobile is going to take place. But again, this is mobile is grayed out because we have not told is mobile what to do yet. So we will do that here pretty soon. And you'll also notice that since we did reference this form factor API, this one is no longer grayed out. But again, this is mobile is grayed out because we haven't told that what to do. But now let's go ahead and go into our onReady function. In here, let's go ahead and create several variables. So what we're going to say is const, we're going to say left is going to equal the left ball, which is right here. So what we're going to do is say $W, left ball. Perfect. Now let's do the same thing for right, but this one's going to be the right wall. Great. The next thing I want to do is create one for the maze. So if we look right here, we'll see that there's this little group here called maze, and that's what we are going to be referencing here. So I'm going to say $W, and we're going to grab the maze. And then last but not least, I want to create one for the wheels. So each one of these inside of here is going to be a wheel. So in order to do that the simplest, what we're going to do is say const wheels is actually going to equal to maze children. And basically what that is saying is this whole group is the maze. And then because each one of these little vector art images are grouped inside of the maze, then each one of these are children to the maze element. So maze is going to be the parent element, and then the children are going to be the wheels. So now that we have all of these created, the next thing I want to do is go ahead and create our timelines. So the first one I want to create is our maze timeline. So we'll call this one maze_TL. And this is going to be a timeline, just like that. Let's create one for left ball. So we'll say left ball TL, and this is going to equal timeline as well. And last but not least, we'll go ahead and do that for a right ball as well. So now that we've created our timelines, we should see our API up here for Wix animations, no longer grayed out. But as you can see, basically every single one of our little constants that we created besides maze is basically grayed out, and that's because we haven't done anything with them. The only one that is not grayed out is maze, and that's just because we used it here. But we haven't actually done anything quite yet. So the first thing that I would like to do is actually create the rotation for the maze, because we don't want to start animating the balls if we don't quite know where they're going to go. So this part is where it gets a little bit more technical. What we're going to do is create a constant. We're going to call this one turns, and it's going to equal an array. So what we're going to do is straight brackets just like that. And inside of here, I'm going to say 0, 2, 1, 3, and then I'm going to go to the next line. I'm going to say 1, 3, 0, 2, and then the next line we're going to say 0, 2, 1, 3, Now, if you kind of look at this and kind of look here at the maze, you'll maybe start to see what I'm trying to do here. So each one of these numbers is basically referencing each one of these children in the maze. So what we can now do is say wheels dot for each. So for each one of these wheels inside of the maze, what we're going to say is wheels, because we want to affect the wheel, or we'll say wheel, comma, index. And then we'll go ahead and create a little function here, just like that. I want to say maze timeline add. And what we want to affect here is the wheel, comma, and then for duration, what we're going to set this to is 1200, which is basically 1.2 seconds. So we want this animation to last 1.2 seconds. We want to rotate it 90 degrees, but we want to times this by turns, and we'll do straight brackets and say index. And before I kind of explain that, let's also just go ahead and add the easing. And we're going to use ease out cubic. And on the outside of these little curly brackets, we'll say comma 1000. And that's basically going to delay this animation by 1 second, because we don't want this animation to immediately start as soon as we load the website. We want it to take 1 second just to load everything. And then once everything is loaded, then the animation will start. So basically what this code is basically saying is right here we have turns, here we have wheels. So when the maze timeline is played, each of the children inside the maze will be indexed and basically correspond to each one of these numbers. So when the animation starts, it's going to rotate 90 degrees times each one of these numbers. So for this first one right here, it's going to rotate 90 degrees times 0. So it's not going to rotate at all. The second one right here is going to rotate 90 degrees times 2. So that's going to basically flip over 180 degrees. This third one right here is basically going to just rotate 90 degrees. And then this fourth one is going to rotate 90 degrees times 3, which is 270. And so on and so forth down the list. But in order for us to be able to show you that this is working, what we now need to do is actually say maze timeline. And we're going to come down here. I'm going to say dot play. Now I did add a little space here because I do plan to put something else here in just a few minutes. But if we just go ahead and press preview, we should notice that it worked just how we wanted it to. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and add the rest of the code here. You'll basically notice that maze timeline is now active because we have told it what to do, but left ball and right ball timelines have not been called yet. So what we realistically want to do, we don't want the left ball or the right ball to even move until this maze is complete. So inside of here, we're going to say on complete, and we're going to create a little mini function here. We're going to say left ball timeline dot play. And then we also want right ball timeline to play as well. So basically what this is saying is when this maze timeline, or when the maze children are all done basically rotating and completing the maze, then we want to start the left ball and the right ball animation. However, we have not set up the animation for the left ball or right ball quite yet. We'll be getting to that in just a few minutes. But before we do that, let's go ahead and basically set up our mobile. So we're going to say is const, we're going to say ball size is going to equal to is mobile question mark. I'm going to say 12 to 16. Underneath that, let's go ahead and create another const. This one's going to be wheel underscore radius. And this is going to equal to 35. Underneath that, we'll create another const. We'll say distance to make, or to maze. And this is just going to equal to is mobile. We're going to say question mark. And then underneath, we're going to say 191 minus 96 minus ball size. Then we're going to add one of these. And now we're going to say 365 minus 238 minus ball size. Now let's create one more const. This one's going to be distance from maze. And once again, this is going to be is mobile question mark. And we're going to say 492 minus, and we're going to say parentheses 211 plus 191 minus ball size. Okay, and then lastly, we're going to say 683 minus 211 plus 365 minus ball size. So these are just going to be for the mobile. So now all that's actually left to do is to actually tell the left ball timeline and the right ball timeline what to do. So what I'm going to do is say left ball timeline. I'm going to come down here and say right ball timeline. And honestly, I'm just going to paste in the code for this. Now I've already covered in both the beginner and intermediate projects on what these do. Now I will kind of explain that here real quick as well. But as you can see, there is just a lot of it. So I don't want to paste or don't want to have to type all of this out. But to kind of explain it in more detail, what we're saying is when the left ball timeline is called, we want to add a step. We want to affect left, which up here we made left ball left. So we want to affect left. We want the animation to last 500. So duration 500, which is basically 500 milliseconds or half a second. Then the Y, we want to affect the Y, and we want the distance to maze plus 7. So distance to maze is this one right here, and plus 7, and then we want ease in sign. So basically that's what we created here. And things like this where it has a comma and this little number right here, basically saying 400 milliseconds of delay here. And then for these ones right here, we're basically saying wheel radius, which again, we've already set wheel radius to 35. So, you know, wheel radius times 2. So this one would be 70. This one would be 71. You know, it's just stuff like that. It's it's not too complicated. It was just a lot to type. But after that, let's go ahead and press preview and see how it looks so far. That was exactly what we were hoping for, and now it is complete. But that's basically going to wrap it up for today's video. If you all did enjoy, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel for more Wix and Editor X content coming out really soon. Thank you all again, and I'll see you on the next one.